She had only 10 seconds left to jump on that train, the train that could have taken her to her dream job. But when she saw an old man struggling with his heavy suitcase, she made a split-second choice. She missed the train and lost her chance at the interview she'd been waiting for all year. What Maya didn't know was that this one small act of kindness would change her life forever in the most unexpected way. Stay with us till the end, because you won't believe what happened next. Welcome to Brainfuel, where real stories of kindness and courage remind us that hope is always around the corner. Hit subscribe and join us as we share stories that will inspire your heart and fuel your mind. Wait, please don't close the doors. Maya's voice cut through the noise of the evening rush hour crowd at Riverside Station. Her heels clacked against the polished tiles as she weaved between hurried commuters, clutching the strap of her worn leather bag. Her breath came out in sharp, nervous bursts. The train was already there, sleek silver cars humming, doors beeping in warning. This was the 5:45 p.m. express to downtown, the one train that could get her to the interview with just minutes to spare. Missing it wasn't an option. Her chest tightened as she saw the countdown clock above the platform flash 0:10 in glowing red digits. 10 seconds left before the doors would slam shut. I can't be late. Not today. Not after everything I prepared for this job. She pushed herself harder, dodging a man dragging a suitcase, sidestepping a pair of college students laughing over their phones. The metallic screech of another train arriving on a different platform filled the air, mixing with the scent of roasted chestnuts from a nearby food cart and the faint smell of rain on the concrete. For a moment, the world around her blurred into a tunnel of noise and motion, just her and that train. Her heart pounded in her ears louder than the announcements blaring overhead. Then, just as her fingertips were about to brush the smooth steel handle of the train door, something caught her eye. On the far edge of the platform, a few feet away from the yellow safety line, an elderly man struggled with a large, weather-beaten suitcase. His thin frame trembled as he tried to drag it forward. The suitcase wobbled dangerously, leaning toward the tracks. Maya slowed for just a fraction of a second. The man's knees buckled slightly, his cane slipping from his grasp as the bag snagged on a crack in the platform, his face tense in effort. And for a heart-stopping moment, it looked like he might stumble right into the path of the train. No, no, no. Her gaze flicked back to the open train doors. She could already hear the automated voice announcing, "Doors closing. Please stand clear." That was her train, the train that could change her life, the one she had been praying for all week, after spending sleepless nights rehearsing answers to every possible interview question. But the old man's hand shook as he tried to grip the suitcase again, his shoulders hunching as if carrying a weight far heavier than the luggage itself. Maya's heartbeat quickened for a different reason now. Not from running, but from the tug-of-war in her mind. I can still make it. If I keep running, I'll make it. But if I don't help him, what if he falls? The train's horn sounded, long and urgent. In that split second, something inside her refused to turn away. Dropping her bag onto her shoulder more securely, Maya veered sharply to the right, heading straight for the old man. "Sir, hang on. I've got it," she called out. The man looked up in surprise, his gray eyes wide beneath the brim of his wool cap. "Oh, I'm fine," he stammered, but his voice trembled, betraying his struggle. "You're not fine," Maya said gently but firmly as she grasped the handle of the suitcase before it could tip. The suitcase was heavier than it looked. Its weight pulled at her arm, and she wondered what could possibly be inside. Just as she steadied both the bag and the man, the train doors behind her hissed and slid shut with a heavy clang. She turned her head just in time to see the express pull away, taillights glowing red as it disappeared down the tunnel. A lump formed in her throat. That was it, her chance slipping away on silver tracks. For a moment, disappointment washed over her like cold rain. Her shoulders sagged slightly as the reality sank in. She had just missed the one train she absolutely couldn't afford to miss. But when she looked back at the man beside her, she noticed the way his lips quivered as he muttered a quiet, shaky, "Thank you." His eyes were moist, not from the chill in the air, but from something deeper, a kind of loneliness Maya could almost feel radiating from him. The station crowd flowed past them. Commuters rushing to catch the next train, mothers guiding their children, students joking with each other. None of them seemed to notice the old man who had nearly fallen. Maya sighed softly and offered him a reassuring smile. "It's okay. Let's get you away from the edge. Here, lean on me." She slipped her arm beneath his elbow, steadying him as they moved toward a nearby bench. The old man's steps were slow and uneven, the rubber tip of his cane tapping rhythmically against the floor. When they finally sat down, Maya realized her heart was still racing, not from the sprint to the train, but from the choice she had just made. "You did the right thing," she told herself, though a small voice in back of her head whispered about the lost opportunity, the lost time. The station's loudspeaker crackled to life with another announcement. Next downtown train, arriving in 23 minutes. 23 minutes. The interview started in 30. Even if she made it on the next train, she would still be late. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't need to look to know it was a reminder she had set that morning. Interview with Sterling and Company. 6:15 p.m., don't be late. She pressed the phone to her chest for a moment, as if that could stop the ache building inside. The old man noticed her expression. "I'm sorry, young lady. Did I make you miss your train?" Maya shook her head quickly, forcing another smile. "Don't worry about it. There'll be another one." But deep down, her mind was already racing with thoughts of how she could explain her delay to the interviewers. She imagined their skeptical faces, their polite but firm apologies as they turned her away for being late. Still, when she glanced at the frail figure sitting beside her, his hands folded tightly over the handle of the suitcase, his eyes distant as though haunted by memories, she felt a strange calm settle over her. Maybe, just maybe, missing that train wasn't the worst thing that could happen today. The bench they found was tucked beneath a flickering station lamp, its paint chipped and the metal cold even through Maya's coat. For a few seconds, both of them just sat there in silence, letting the rush of footsteps and distant train whistles fill the gap. The old man adjusted his wool cap with trembling fingers, his shoulders hunched inward, as though he was trying to make himself invisible to the busy world passing them by. Maya shifted her bag onto her lap and tried to catch her breath. The adrenaline from running for the train was still fading from her chest. She brushed a loose curl of hair from her forehead and glanced sideways at the man. He looked fragile, the kind of fragile that makes you instinctively lower your voice. His hands, wrapped around the handle of the battered suitcase, were thin and pale, the veins raised like lines on an old map. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft and slightly hoarse, as though in use of conversation. "I didn't mean to slow you down, miss. I'm sorry you missed your train because of me." Maya offered him the warmest smile she could muster despite the heaviness in her own chest. "Please don't apologize. Anyone would have done the same." The old man gave a faint, almost disbelieving chuckle. "Not everyone would have stopped. Most people don't notice old folks like me anymore. We become part of the scenery, a shadow in the crowd." His words landed heavier than she expected. Maya thought about all the times she had rushed past strangers in her own life, too consumed by her problems to notice theirs. Wanting to shift the mood, she asked gently, "Where were you headed with that suitcase?" The old man rested his cane against the bench, took a slow breath, and said, "Across town to Maplewood Street. I needed to get there before it gets too dark. I have someone to see." There was a pause in his voice when he said someone, as if the name was stuck behind a wall of memories. Maya didn't press. Instead, she reached into her bag for her water bottle and offered it to him. "Here, you sound like you could use a sip." He hesitated at first, then took it with a grateful nod. His fingers brushed hers, icy cold, almost brittle. "Thank you," he murmured. After a sip, he said, "I'm Harold Bennett. Haven't had anyone offer me water in a long while." "I'm Maya," she replied. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Bennett." He smiled faintly. "Mr. Bennett, haven't heard that in years. Makes me feel important." For a moment, the two of them shared a small laugh, one that softened the air between them. Maya's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with another reminder. Sterling and Company. Interview 6:15 p.m. Don't be late. Followed by a new text from the company's assistant. "We'll start in 15 minutes. Are you on your way?" Her heart tightened. She flipped the phone face down on her lap, trying not to let Harold see the flicker of worry in her eyes. She could hear the murmur of other commuters waiting for the next train. Couples chatting about dinner plans. A teenager humming along to music through earbuds. All around her, life was moving forward, as if her own dreams weren't hanging by a thread. Harold broke the silence again. "You're dressed sharp. That jacket says you're headed somewhere important. A date, maybe?" Maya shook her head with a small laugh. "A job interview. A really important one." Harold's face brightened for a moment, then fell as realization dawned. "And you missed it because of me." Maya quickly waved her hands. No, I still have time. I think another train is coming soon." The truth stung in her throat. She knew she was already cutting it too close. She noticed Harold's suitcase again. Scuffed leather, a strap repaired with duct tape. The corners were frayed, and a small paper tag dangled from the handle. Its writing faded almost to illegibility. "Is that heavy?" she asked. Harold gave the suitcase a small pat. "Feels heavier than it should, but it's mostly just memories. Clothes, a few old photo albums, a couple of letters. I'm heading to see my sister's family. Haven't been there in years. Thought it was finally time." His voice softened on the last sentence, filled with something unspoken. Perhaps regret, perhaps hope. Maya nodded slowly. She could picture the photos tucked away inside, black and white smiles from decades ago. A train screeched to a halt on the opposite platform, releasing a wave of passengers who hurried past them. The gust of air brought ruffled Harold's cap and tugged at Maya's scarf. She noticed Harold shiver slightly. Without thinking twice, she opened her bag and pulled out a spare shawl she always carried in case of cold evenings. "Here, you can use this until your bus or train comes." Harold blinked at her in surprise. "You'll freeze without it." "I'll be fine," Maya said, draping it gently around his shoulders. The gesture seemed to touch him more than he wanted to admit. His chin trembled slightly, but he straightened up, pulling the shawl closer. Another buzz from Maya's phone. This time it was her best friend texting. "You got this. They're gonna love you. Don't be late." Maya bit her lip. She didn't reply. In the back of her mind, she imagined herself walking into the sleek lobby of Sterling and Company, shaking hands with a hiring manager, nailing every question. She could almost feel the sense of relief that would follow. A steady paycheck, the chance to pay her overdue rent, to finally stop worrying. But then she looked at Harold sitting beside her, a man with nothing but an old suitcase and a handful of memories, and that image faded. A voice on the loudspeaker announced, "Next bus to Maplewood Street, delayed by 30 minutes due to heavy traffic." Harold groaned softly and rubbed his temples. "I was hoping to get there before dark. Guess not tonight." Maya checked the time. The delay for his bus meant he would be sitting there alone for at least half an hour. She thought about leaving him now to catch the next downtown train, but guilt immediately clenched her stomach. Her heart war with her mind again. Help a stranger a little longer or salvage what was left of her own opportunity. She stood up, glancing between the signs for a platform and the bench where Harold sat. "I'll grab us some water and maybe something to eat. We'll figure this out." Before Harold could protest, she jogged to the vending machine near the stairs, fed in a few crumpled bills, and bought 2 bottles of water and a small pack of crackers. When she returned, Harold's eyes glistened. "You didn't have to do all this. You barely know me." Maya opened the crackers and handed him one. "Sometimes that's the best time to be kind, when we barely know each other." The old man let out a breath that sounded almost like a sigh of relief. "You remind me of my daughter. She was like that, always believed in kindness." Maya noticed the past tense was, but didn't pry. Instead, she smiled softly. In that moment, she realized the station around them had started to feel quieter. It was as if, for a brief while, the bustling crowd had faded, and the two of them were just two souls sharing a small island of warmth on a cold metal bench. She still had no idea that the kindness she was showing a stranger tonight would soon come back to change her entire life. The next train finally arrived with a shrill screech of brakes and a gust of cool, dusty air that blew across the platform. Maya helped Harold settle comfortably back on the bench and gave him a reassuring smile. "Your bus should be here soon." I hope you'll reach Maplewood safely, she said, adjusting the shawl on his shoulders. Harold nodded and gave her hand a grateful pat. Thank you for everything, Maya. I don't know how I would have managed without you tonight. Maya forced a cheerful smile, despite the weight in her chest. Take care of yourself, Mr. Bennett. I hope your evening goes well. She waved one last time as she boarded the train, feeling a pang of guilt for leaving him alone, and a pang of panic as she glanced at her phone. The digital clock glowed. 6:02 p.m. The interview was scheduled for 6:15 p.m. 13 minutes left. Her heart sank. Even if the train moved at lightning speed, there was no way she could cross the downtown station, catch a cab, and arrive on time. She sank into a corner seat, clutching her bag to her chest as the train lurched forward. The fluorescent lights above flickered briefly, mirroring her uncertain thoughts. As the city blurred by outside the window, rows of brick apartments, neon-lit diners, kids playing basketball in an alley, Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had dreamed about this interview for weeks. The company, Sterling and Company, wasn't just any firm. It was prestigious, known for giving people second chances. She had read their success stories online. People who started as interns and went on to lead projects that changed entire neighborhoods. For Maya, this job represented stability. It meant catching up on rent, finally helping her younger brother with college tuition, maybe even saving enough to fix the broken heater in her apartment before winter hit. But now, all that felt like it was slipping further away with every passing minute. Her phone buzzed again, this time a call. The screen displayed an unfamiliar office number. She swallowed hard before answering. "Hello, this is Maya," she said, trying to sound composed despite the dread in her voice. "Good evening. This is Claire from Sterling and Company," said a polite but clipped voice on the other end. "We were expecting you for your interview at 6:15. Are you nearby?" Maya closed her eyes for a brief second, steadying her breath. "I'm so sorry, Claire. I'm on the train right now. There was an emergency at the station. I'm on my way, but I'll be a few minutes late." The line went quiet for a heartbeat before Claire replied, her tone polite but firm. "I understand emergencies happen, but the panel has a tight schedule. I'll inform them you're running late, but please try to arrive as soon as possible." "Thank you. I really appreciate it," Maya said, her voice tight with anxiety. When the call ended, she stared at the reflection of her own worried face in the darkened train window. She hated being late. It made her feel unprofessional, as though all her preparation, the night spent memorizing answers, the mornings rehearsing in front of the mirror, had been for nothing. The train stopped at 3 more stations, each delay feeling like a jab to her chest. A group of teenagers got on at one stop, laughing and playing music on a phone speaker. Normally, Maya might have smiled at their carefree energy, but tonight it only reminded her how heavy her own world felt. By the time the train pulled into the downtown station, it was 6:22 p.m. She darted out the doors and rushed up the escalators 2 steps at a time. Outside, the evening air was cool and smelled faintly of roasted peanuts from a street vendor. Maya hailed a passing cab, but traffic was slow. Brake lights stretched down the avenue like a river of red. She tapped her foot impatiently as the driver inched forward through congestion. Every few minutes, she glanced at the clock on the dashboard, watching her chances slip away second by second. Finally, the cab screeched to a stop in front of the sleek glass building that housed Sterling and Company. The tall doors gleamed under bright white lights, reflecting the city skyline like a mirror. Maya paid the fare quickly and hurried inside, her heels clicking on the marble floor. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon polish and fresh flowers. The receptionist, a young woman in a crisp navy suit, looked up as Maya approached. Her polite smile didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, I'm Maya Thompson. I had a 6:15 interview with the community outreach panel," Maya said, slightly out of breath. The receptionist's smile thinned. "Oh, Ms. Thompson, I'm afraid the panel has already moved on to the next candidate. I'll let them know you've arrived, but I can't guarantee they'll see you now." Maya's heart plummeted. "Please, I'm only a few minutes late. There was a situation at the station. I can explain." The receptionist's tone stayed professional but firm. "I understand, but they have a very tight schedule tonight. Please have a seat, and I'll check if they can spare a moment. Maya nodded numbly and sat on a nearby chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The leather seat was too soft, the kind that made you sink in and feel small. She stared at the geometric patterns on the polished floor, her mind replaying the moment she had turned back to help Harold. A swirl of emotions rose. Frustration, regret, sadness, but also a strange sense of peace. After several long minutes, the receptionist returned with an apologetic look. "I'm sorry, Miss Thompson. The panel has already moved on and won't be able to see you today. They'll keep your resume on file for future openings." Maya managed a stiff smile. "Thank you for checking." She stood up, thanked the receptionist again out of habit, and walked back toward the entrance. Her legs felt heavy, like she was wading through water. Outside, the sun had already dipped below the skyline, leaving streaks of orange and purple over the rooftops. Streetlights flickered to life, casting pools of yellow on the sidewalks. Maya paused at the steps leading down to the street, staring at the traffic lights changing colors in the distance. She felt like the whole city was moving forward while she stood frozen in place. Pulling out her phone, she called her best friend, Kiera. The phone rang twice before Kiera answered cheerfully. "Hey, how did it go? Did you crush it?" Maya's throat tightened. I didn't even get the chance. I was late. I missed the train because I stopped to help someone, and by the time I got here, they were already with the next candidate." There was a pause on the other end. Then Kiera said softly, "Oh, Maya, I'm so sorry. But you know what? You did the right thing. That man needed your help. If they can't see the kind of person you are because of a few minutes, maybe it wasn't the right place anyway. That's easy for you to say. My rent's due next week. I really needed this." Kiera's voice turned gentle but firm. "I get it, but kindness always comes back around. You just don't know when or how yet." Later that night, Maya lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. The city noises outside, car horns, distant music, a barking dog, felt muffled against the silence inside her room. She thought about Harold's weary smile as he thanked her, about the way his eyes had softened under the station's flickering light. A small part of her wondered if she had made a terrible mistake, but another part whispered that she couldn't have lived with herself if she had ignored him. 2 weeks had passed since that evening at Riverside Station, yet the memory of it lingered in Maya's mind like a half-finished chapter. She had gone back to her normal routine, sending out resumes every morning, attending interviews that went nowhere, and taking long walks through the city to clear her thoughts. But sometimes, late at night, her mind wandered back to Harold Bennett, the frail man with the battered suitcase and the quiet gratitude in his eyes. She often wondered if he'd made it safely to Maplewood Street that night. She hadn't asked for his phone number, and there was no way to know. On a rainy Friday afternoon, Maya ducked into a small corner cafe near her apartment. It was one of those cozy places with brick walls, wooden shelves lined with books, and the comforting smell of coffee beans roasting behind the counter. The rain tapped against the large window panes like tiny fingers, blurring the world outside. She ordered a caramel latte and found a seat by the window, her laptop open as she scrolled through online job postings yet again. Most of them felt out of reach, demanding years of experience she didn't have. As she sipped her coffee, a drop of rain slid down the glass, mirroring the slow trickle of doubt in her heart. Was I foolish to believe kindness would come back around? She wondered. Kiera always says good things happen to good people, but maybe the world doesn't really work that way. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the cafe door opening. A gust of cool, damp air swept in as someone stepped inside. Maya barely looked up at first, absorbed in her screen. But then a voice, deep yet familiar, spoke. "Excuse me, young lady, is this seat taken?" Maya's fingers froze on the keyboard. Slowly, she lifted her eyes. Standing there was Harold Bennett, but he didn't look anything like the frail, struggling man she remembered. The change was so striking that for a heartbeat, she wasn't sure it was him. His posture was straight now, confident even. His faded brown coat had been replaced by a tailored navy blue jacket. His shoes were polished to a soft shine, and his hair, neatly combed back, revealed a certain dignity that had been hidden before. "Mr. Bennett?" Maya said in disbelief. her voice barely above a whisper. A warm smile spread across his face, the kind that reaches the eyes. "I was hoping I'd find you again. I've been looking for you." Maya blinked, surprised. "Looking for me? I can't believe this. You look so different." Harold chuckled, settling into the seat across from her. "Last time you saw me, I was at rock bottom. I just lost someone very dear to me, and I wasn't sure I wanted to keep going. That suitcase I was dragging, it held the last few pieces of my old life. But then you stopped to help me when no one else even noticed. You reminded me there's still kindness left in this world." Maya felt her throat tighten. She remembered his trembling hands clutching that suitcase, the way he had apologized for making her late. "I didn't do much," she said softly. "I just didn't want you to fall." "You did more than you know," Harold replied, his tone gentle but earnest. "That night, after I reached my sister's house, I told her about you, about this stranger who gave up her own plans to help an old man. It was the first time in months that I felt hopeful." The rain outside slowed to a drizzle, the droplets on the window catching the glow of the streetlights like tiny stars. Inside the cafe, the chatter of other customers faded into the background as Maya listened. Harold continued, "I didn't tell you this before, but I run a community foundation. We support programs for families in need, food banks, shelters, scholarships for kids. But after losing my daughter last year, I felt too broken to keep it going. I was ready to shut everything down." Maya's eyes widened slightly. "You run a foundation?" Harold nodded. "Or at least, I used to. I've spent most of my life building it. But grief made me lose sight of why I started it in the first place. That night at the station, I was on my way to Maplewood Street to see my sister, to tell her I was stepping away for good. And then you appeared." His voice softened as he added, "You reminded me why it mattered. Because people like you, people who choose kindness even when it costs them something, are the reason this world is worth fighting for." Maya's chest tightened with emotion. She had never thought her small choice that evening could mean so much to someone else. Harold reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a sleek black business card with silver lettering. He slid it across the table toward her. "I've decided not to quit. In fact, I'm expanding the foundation. We're opening a new department focused on outreach and local partnerships. We're looking for someone who has not just the skills, but the heart for this work. I believe you'd be perfect for it." Maya stared at the card. The embossed logo read, "Bennett Community Foundation." I don't know what to say," she whispered, her eyes misty. "I thought I lost my chance at Sterling and Company because I stopped to help you. But you're offering me a job." "Not just a job," Harold said with a kind smile. "A purpose. We need people who care about others, people who don't hesitate to do what you did that night." For a long moment, Maya sat quietly, absorbing everything. She thought about the disappointment she had carried after losing that interview, the sleepless nights worrying about rent, the doubt that had gnawed at her. And now, here was Harold, offering her not only employment, but also a role that aligned with her values, a chance to make a real difference. A waiter came by with a refill for her latte, and Harold ordered black coffee. The simple act of sitting across from him, sharing a table as equals, felt surreal after their first meeting at the station. Maya finally smiled, a genuine, relieved smile that lit up her face. "I'd be honored to work with you. Honestly, I think this is exactly where I'm meant to be." Harold's eyes softened, a glimmer of relief in them. Then it settled. "Welcome aboard." The rain outside had stopped completely now, leaving the streets shiny and reflecting the cafe's warm lights. Maya glanced out the window at the people walking by, umbrellas tucked under their arms, and thought about how quickly life could change, how one small decision on a crowded train platform could lead her here. As they finished their drinks, Harold said, "I hope you know, Maya, that your kindness didn't just help me that night. It changed the direction of my life, and now perhaps yours too." When they stood to leave, Harold offered his hand. Maya shook it firmly, feeling a renewed sense of hope surge through her. As they stepped out of the cafe into the fresh post-rain air, Maya couldn't help but smile. She finally understood what Kiera had told her. Sometimes kindness does come back, just not in the way you expect it. The next Monday morning felt different from any other Monday Maya had experienced in months. There was no pit in her stomach, no dread of opening rejection emails or scrolling endlessly through job listings. Instead, as sunlight spilled through her bedroom window, she felt something new: purpose. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of her crisp white blouse, a gentle smile tugging at her lips. It wasn't the most expensive outfit, just a simple blouse and a navy skirt, but it was neatly pressed, and for the first time in a long while, she felt proud of how she looked. Her best friend, Kiera, called just as Maya was about to grab her bag. "So," Kiera's voice was teasing, "are you ready for your big first day? Or should I send you a motivational playlist to keep you from chickening out?" Maya laughed, the sound light and free. "You know me too well. I'm nervous, but in a good way. This feels right, Kiera. Like all those struggles finally led me here." Kiera's tone softened. "You deserve this, Maya. I told you kindness always comes back around. I'm proud of you." The Bennett Community Foundation's main office was housed in a renovated brick building downtown, adorned with climbing ivy and wide glass doors that reflected the bright morning sky. As Maya approached, she felt a flutter of anticipation in her chest. Inside, the atmosphere was nothing like the stiff, corporate offices she'd interviewed at before. The walls were decorated with photos of smiling families, volunteers at food drives, and children receiving scholarships. Sunlight streamed in through tall windows, bathing the space in a welcoming glow. At the reception desk, a cheerful woman greeted her. "You must be Maya. Mr. Bennett has been expecting you. Welcome to the family." Maya's heart warmed at the word family. It didn't feel like a job already. It felt like a community she was about to join. Harold Bennett arrived shortly after, dressed in a charcoal suit with a simple striped tie. There was a certain energy in his step, a spark that hadn't been there when Maya first met him at the train station. "Maya, good morning," he said with a warm smile. "Come on in. Let's introduce you to the team." He led her through a bustling open concept office where people worked at their desks surrounded by bulletin boards filled with event flyers and project plans. The air buzzed with purpose and passion rather than stress. Harold gathered everyone for a quick meeting. "Team, I want you all to meet Maya Johnson," he said proudly. "She's joining us as our new community outreach coordinator. You'll soon learn why I believe she's the perfect fit for this role." There was polite applause and warm smiles all around. Maya felt a mix of humility and excitement, bowing her head slightly in gratitude. Her first week flew by. She dove headfirst into her tasks, helping organize a fundraising gala, coordinating volunteers for a local food drive, and brainstorming new initiatives for youth mentorship programs. But what stood out to her most was how much everyone cared. This wasn't just about paperwork or deadlines. It was about real people. Every phone call she made, every spreadsheet she updated felt like a step toward changing someone's life for the better. One afternoon, she accompanied Harold to a nearby shelter to oversee the delivery of donated winter coats. Watching children's faces light up as they tried on their new jackets made her heart swell with gratitude. That evening, Maya called Kiera. "You know what's crazy? I think I finally get what I'm supposed to do with my life. I want to be part of something that matters. This matters." Weeks turned into months. Maya became an integral part of the Foundation's family, her compassion and energy inspiring those around her. Her knack for connecting with people made her outreach programs flourish. She built relationships with local schools, small businesses, and even city officials. Harold often watched her work with quiet pride. One day, as they wrapped up a meeting about a scholarship initiative, he said, "You remind me of my daughter. She had the same fire in her to help people. I think she'd be happy knowing you're here." The words touched Maya deeply, and in that moment, she understood the unspoken bond they shared, one forged by loss, hope, and kindness. Not everything was smooth sailing. There were challenges, funding gaps, skeptical sponsors, and long days that stretched late into the night. Yet, through it all, Maya held on to the memory of that night at the train station. She often thought, if I hadn't stopped to help him, none of this would have happened. That thought kept her going when things got hard, reminding her that even the smallest acts can change the course of someone's life, including her own. 6 months after joining the foundation, Maya stood backstage at their biggest fundraising event of the year, the annual Gala for Hope. The ballroom was filled with donors, volunteers, and community members. Twinkling fairy lights hung from the ceiling like a sky full of stars, and the sound of soft music filled the air. Harold took the stage to give his speech. As he spoke about the foundation's journey, he paused and looked at Maya in the crowd. "Before we continue, I want to share a story," he began. "A few months ago, I met a young woman at a train station. She didn't know me, but she chose to help when I needed it most. That simple act of kindness not only changed my path, but also breathed new life into this foundation. That young woman is Maya Johnson, our outreach coordinator. Her kindness is proof that hope often arrives when you least expect it." The audience erupted in applause, some even rising to their feet. Maya felt her eyes glisten as she realized how far she'd come since that rainy evening. After the gala, as she stood near the balcony overlooking the city's glittering skyline, Harold joined her with 2 glasses of sparkling cider. "You've done more for this foundation in 6 months than I could have hoped for," he said warmly. "I'm grateful for that night at the station. I think fate had a plan for both of us." Maya smiled, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "I guess sometimes missing your train means you're just on the right track after all." They both laughed softly, clinking their glasses in a silent toast of the power of compassion. That night, as Maya walked home under a canopy of stars, she thought about how her journey had unfolded. She remembered the doubt, the lost opportunities, the struggles, and then the single decision to stop and help a stranger. Life, she realized, isn't always about grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it's about small choices made with good heart, choices that ripple outward, touching lives in ways you could never predict. Her heart felt lighter than it had in years, full of hope and gratitude. Maya's story spread within the community, inspiring others to embrace small acts of kindness. She was invited to speak at schools, where she told students, "You never know who you're helping or how it might come back to you. But help anyway. Choose kindness every time." The children listened, their faces bright with curiosity and wonder. In that moment, Maya understood that her journey had come full circle, from being lost and uncertain to becoming someone who could guide others. In the months that followed, Maya continued to thrive at the foundation, her life richer and more meaningful than she'd ever imagined. Her kindness had not only changed Harold's life,